My name's Thew and it's time for episode 150 of that thing I do on the internet. Yes friends, it's been a solid 2.5 years since the last Crapfest and the naff box is well and truly stacked with cut price tat, weird wannabes and more than a few bottom grade knockoffs. Welcome to the Beatdown. First off with a selection of weirdos fished from the deepest and murkiest depths of the internet. Bypass the mainframe, it's internet dementia. This opening salvo of strange was all procured online, primarily from the bins around the back of eBay and from the back room at Sir Toys. But first, as a prefix, we pay a visit to an old friend. Yeah, that is another one of them Thomas formers from way back in Beatdown 2. I was genuinely pumped up about it last time, but that's probably just because I found it in Poundland. Because as it turns out, there are infinity billion dodgy variations of the poor old Robo Squad bursting from every pore of the online marketplace like so much pus. This one, for example, who we'll call 120 Days of Sodor, came from Hong Kong via eBay. And even with slightly heavier plastic and more Thomas-like faces, he's still exactly 0% less terrible. I mean, I suppose he does look a bit better for a touch of chrome, but like the Robo-Noggin's totally jammed so the train mode's automatically ruined. They just stink of some gross noxious chemical. And like, is that how James gets down? Picture of himself on himself? You're fooling nobody, Daisy. Ah, like a little flower. Anyway, the reason I bring these up is that over here I've got their heavy-duty shadow cabinet. Now these days are seemingly known only as Robot Train Kubian Bao, and I like their style. So we've got a heavy sort of Eastern European-looking electro-style fella and these adorable steam engine bros. The green guy's definitely a choice bit of toy joy. He's all compact and satisfyingly symmetrical, and it's so rare to see a Transformer toy of a non-flashy standard workhorse loco outside of like the G1 train bots. Wheels are a bit useless, but I love the detail and the colour and the conspicuous yellow bumper. Hey guys. The other two are fairly mix and match theme park looking fellas, not unlike the blue and green guys from the Thomas Tools. Like they share a lot of elements with each other. 6 wheels, matching size, removable arse ends. But the designs are about different enough to give them their own flavour. Yellow guy's very much your straight-laced all business type, while the red one's flaunting a fabulous Old West vibe with like the big daft funnel and the cowcatcher. So yeah, this little train trio's definitely got a lot more to offer than the old Thomas bots. Originality, charm, robot modes. Damn it. Turns out this lot are a proper little unit. So the green guy, who we'll christen Trainted Love, unfolds himself into a superb little robo, rocking the classic insta-win vehicle front body type that just always works. Heavy shoulder cannons and some banging machine shop stylings. Sadly, it does start to become clear in this mode that the plastic's not up to much. Like, he puts the panels to respectable use, but they're bordering on translucent, and the knees are proper gash. Still, he's an awesomely original wee rascal, and I appreciate that he's basically made out of his alt mode. And check out this pair for a heroically huggable Hearts of Steel cliff jumper Bumblebee double act. They're likewise a bit thin and unstable and about 10 times dumber looking than the other guy. Like Aladdin Train's got this dumb little smile on his stupid face and helpfully labelled knees, and Training Blood's looking adorably optimistic with eyes wide and knees aflame. And then this happens.
Insane in the mem train. Insane in the train. In train in the mem train. In train in the train. In train in the mem train. Insane in the train.
That's right, it's Chudicus. Get a load of this industrial dreadnought. So again, not unlike the Thomas Combiner, these two bisect themselves into massively overblown shoulders with stringy double leg arms and a paradoxically plain little tenderfoot, but that's where the comparison stops. This thing's the real deal and it means business. It's just got a real pugnacious feel to it with the massive shoulders and the low central head. It's not the most complex of things, like the middle guy's barely changed really. He's just tucked in a bit and put a mask on, while these two's heads are plainly visible and just sniggering across to each other. God, it's so clumsy. And the whole thing's clearly quite cheaply made, but there's potential here. There's love here, and there's imagination, and there's a ton of heart. You know what though, I've never seen anything quite like this, but weirdly it feels like something I've always wanted. Like there was some need in there that hadn't quite been met, but I couldn't exactly picture what I was thinking of. And then this thing comes along and it's like, ah, dude, yes, that's what I want. Diesel Punk Megazord. Now then, get your Jimmy Choos on for the latest fashion style robot. Which, disappointingly, is just a flaky baby movie prime stunt double trying to hijack some Optimus dollars by duping grandmas into buying it. With that fabulous name in the sweet Deviant art, which itself would be more impressive if it hadn't been robbed off a placemat. I got prime on it. Box aside, this thing's nothing but a tedious little tricolour tramp of basically zero value. It's slightly bigger than the real one, so like, is that good? Can you call it a style if it has no style? And why this prime? Like, not even the good one. Like, not even the good Legends one. Like, not even the good movie Legends one. You know, the worst one. Shift, delete. In a similar vein, coming all the way from eBay is this interchangeable Robot from PMS. The moment I saw this, I was like, oh yeah, total Spy Changer Mirage imposter. But it's not quite the same guy. Looks like this Alphatrons or whatever is actually just your standard Formula None race robo with, oh look, an Optimus face. And despite some heavy posing potential, he just can't look any good in this play school ball pit outfit. And as for the sports car mode, see, I know it's a sports car because it says it. It's kind of cute in a basic sort of way, and it might have been vaguely acceptable if not for the Fist Throne. Pretty good band name though. Jesus. But I don't think I've ever seen a soul trying as hard to find an audience than poor old Nonslaught here. This tragic little Surtoy survivor is a slightly simplified yet somehow satisfying deluxe and a half reworking of the 2008 Ultra Beast Onslaught. And he's trying so hard to get some audience appeal that he's put on an Optimus Prime mask. Oh mate, he's gone full on Chinese audience as well with like the Age of Extinction curved faceplate and the Captain America colours. Otherwise though, this thing's actually kind of awesome. It's got like decent weighty plastic, Inferno's riot hose which you can't quite hold. And whatever this thing is, Ultimo's looking pretty sick too. I think he might have gone a fair way towards winning me over. Just, you know, try and hate yourself a little less. You don't need no mask. Be you, girl. You're cute. You're perfect. You're Asian. Guys love that. On the final page of our internet search results, then, is this freaky fivesome of solid shapeformers named the Shrine Warriors. Now, I don't quite know the story behind this lot, like if they're from something or if they've even got names. They're all just little shapes, really, with like vaguely mechanistic paneling detail and little zoo animal emblems. But the things they do with the idea are just unreal. Take Stanley Kubrick here, for example. He's ostensibly just a box, but he transforms competently and confidently into this bitchin' little Rescue Bots Ironhide-looking bruiser. The robot mode itself is way cute. He's got these pudgy little legs with the big hefty blaster hands and like a little Bomberman face. I'm gonna go ahead and guess this guy's the boss because like he's the most normal looking and the leader's always red, right? Anyway, articulation on these guys is okay but not great. Stanfair's better than most, like he's got some joints and he can hold a pose, but the hip joints make the most awful sound. But that's kind of fine. I mean, I wasn't expecting anything out of these guys and it's amazing that all this awesome can fit into such a little box. It's much the same thing with Cylindy Lauper here. Shape mode's a standard canister of curiosity that I keep trying to drink out of, but the transformation's just incredible and it sort of naturally incorporates the curves into this righteous robot mode. Love this little guy with his Demolish All colours and his Blitzwing legs and his built-in shield with like a Trojan unicorn on it. And he's a Centurion. Why is he a Centurion? On to Rue Ball then, who's a smidge more problematic. The sphere mode's a bit nice and might make a passable stand-in for that Moonbase 1 reenactment. Yes, we're not getting away! But it's got the most awkward and least sensible transformation and he can't seem to stop falling in half. He is supposed to do that, but not every time. Robot mode's got some fabulous moth wings, a really neat space helmet and a lush blue going on, but the combination of too tall and dumpy butt is a bit of a curveball. This six-sided surprise is Prism Hex and he's definitely the big fat party animal of the crew. I mean, for starters, he's got a big fat animal on his belly. He's just irresistibly chunky. Definitely detecting a bit of Rocklord influence here with like his intersecting heavy parts and somehow indistinct face like some kind of mud golem. I also really love that like a third of his mass is dedicated to these monumental shoulder blasters, which like, I don't feel like he needs the little Star Wars pistols. I mean, do what you want, but do you need them? The fifth lith then is Pyramid. And sadly, he lets the side down a little bit. He's gone for the obvious desert theme in his shape mode, which I guess why wouldn't he? Problem is, he doesn't have that same put that ass to work ethic as the others. So rather than doing something creative with his shape, he just tucks all his parts inside like a lame wad and ends up with a weird looking robot mode. He's the only one where this feels like kibble. I mean, I like that it's weird, but it's not good. And look, that is definitely Classics Rodimus's gun with an earthworm butt on it. For shame, Pyramid. I'd be very cross with you if you weren't packing that hidden Sega boss mode. Anyway, this lot can apparently combine into like a temple structure dealy, but I can't seem to hook it up. Pyramid and Kubrick just won't cooperate, and I think I'm missing a thing. So for gimmicks, I'm more than happy to settle for the epic light show with adventure music and hyperactive Chinese dialogue, which if you leave them to it, they absolutely will not stop. I gotta hand it to the Shriners, they've blown me away a little bit. They've taken a concept as simple as a reconfigurable shape and taken it to some truly bizarre and genuinely impressive places. And each guy mode is so weird and different and packed with so much personality that you've gotta respect it. Shrine on, you crazy diamond. Cube. Whatever. Alright, that's enough interesting stuff. Time now for some American trash. Big lots! Crap. Yes, indeed, all the way from the US of States comes this bucket full of bollocks from discount megastars Big Lots, under the super exciting name of Robotic Fighter. Oh boy, I can hardly wait. So let's set the bar as low as possible with Ra's al Prul. This fella's not discernibly a specific knockoff of any particular Transformers toy especially, but rather a deeply unimaginative, joyless genericon with an inconsequential Popo-themed paint job. To be fair, he does manage a bang-up job on the piece of crap checklist. Feeble-ass joints, thin, lifeless plastic, vaguely familiar standard target mastery head, and quality so poor it makes the transformation impossible. The only positive I can possibly say is that he's got an English Easter egg on his police badge. Public Safety, Town of Police. Great job, stupid. Christ. Acting with Senor Prul then was young Michaela Thunderstracken. I suppose she's not the worst Cybertron Thunder Croc-off we've had on the show. She's actually kinda lovely with this chunky little body, lovely chewy blue colours, sweet little go-botty head and the inadvertent thumbs up. But sadly cute does not equal non-suck. Shoulders are well flaky and she just like falls in half. That's not good, is it? That's not something a good toy would do. It's kind of a shame, you know? I kinda wish this toy was either a bit better or a lot worse. But as it stands, this simply will not do. Hang thine baby head.
Release the Thunder Dragon.
Next up then is Sound Dave.
Sound Dave?
Oh right, Sound Dwayne? This guy's a slightly embiggened Cybertron Legend Soundwave in dull grey and red, which basically makes him Player 2 Sound Dave, and he's awful for exactly the same reasons. Bad plastic, bad upscaling, bad paint, and honestly a really weird choice of mould. I mean, why counterfeit this toy? It's so weird and fiddly and non-kid friendly and it turns into nothing. And it can't even turn into nothing because the waist won't go. Right, there's nothing else for it, I'm gonna have to force it. You ready? Oh, it worked. Oh, boring. And that brings us to the single diamond in this quadrangle of rough. I call this Freaky Fruit Smoothie Fake Away, and I was fully ready to just sneer at it because I wasn't that big a fan of Breakaway in the first place. But upon closer inspection, it's actually kind of interesting, because it seems what we have here is a mango-flavoured chop shop job of at least 3 different toys. It's clearly Breakaway first and foremost, but there's echoes of movie Dreadwind in this waist kibble, a lower body from a third toy that I can't quite place, and what may or may not be Misfire's head. That's great! These things are all garbage, with uniformly bad plastic, and this one can't even hold his gun. But his mangled ass is just so weird and fascinating, and it's phenomenal that Grand X were able to make it work in any capacity. Still though. Also from the shelves of Big Lots, it looks like Quick Change Robot System are not only still at it, but they're also branching out into beasties, presenting your Momshell. Now this clearly isn't an actual KO bombshell, but rather a basic-ass bastardized barrage who turns from a fairly funkalish Rhino Beetle into this. And you're like, is this it? I mean, this barely even counts as a robot with its void of a torso, exposed manufacturer label, and lame-ass ear tendrils in place of arms. But check this out, in amongst the back-of-pack menagerie of lost souls appropriated by QCRS is your Momshell's slightly more respectable brother-in-law sporting a traditional fold-over torso. And you're like, okay, maybe I'm not doing it right. But he can't do that! That joint just doesn't exist! That's bullshit! You cannot tell me that's worth half a Defensor. Last out of the Big Lots lot then is this Morphbot from the Mutator collection. I think it's fair to say that Noptimus here is about as obvious as you can get for a car former. Hood, chest, door wings. You know what's a great way to help your Crudbot sell without actually having to make it good? Why not dress it up like Optimus Prime? Just make him red and blue and frowny. He'll be a sensation! Anyway, the toy itself is unmitigatedly horrible. All hollow and flimsy with that stringy crap hanging off it. And 3 guns but no feet? You sort of got an alternator vibe going on, kind of like Optimus via Jazz but without any of the neat engineering or the excitement. Because alternators aren't fun anymore. That was 10 years ago. We've got masterpieces now. But what it does have, or at least claims to have, is a legit real-world vehicle mode. It's a nasty, cheap-looking vehicle mode with wheels that don't turn, but apparently this is an official licensed Ford product manufactured by Superway International, a company that doesn't seem to exist. But maybe thanks to this helpful advice slip we can find out more at toys1628.com. Real talk though, we joke about questionable copyrights and that, and I mean robots are one thing, because they're actually alright, but this is just repugnant. This is filth. And by the way, that is not a Mustang. That is either a dead gerbil or a map of Crete drawn by a drunk 5-year-old. License this!
Whoa!
now for a look at some Naff robos, what I got down in the shops. Yes, indeed, I was recently absolutely stunned to find this complete in-box Allspark Power Fracture, the uber sought-after GoBot-themed Mirage repaint, just in a shop in Derbyshire for a tenner. Now, I did have my suspicions because I'm vaguely aware that the Mirage mold's been knocked off to absolute buggery, but I can't say for certain whether this is a knockoff or just a shagged figure. I mean, the toy's an absolute shambles. The very first thing it did was just fall apart in my hands. I mean, I thought the drag strip version was wibbly, but this is a nightmare. But like, the packaging looks pretty tight. Did it really get knocked off this completely? And how come the box is so great when the toy is such garbage? I wouldn't be at all surprised if it was a KO, seeing as the shop was otherwise just stocked with USB disco lights, another tap that nobody wants. But owing to the uncertainty, we'll designate a more suitable target for Mirage-themed disapproval and/or butt smashage. So in the blue corner is Mirage, hailing from that trusted flagship of integrity that is the gift shop at the Cheshire Ice Cream Farm. He's not a particularly interesting one, just a straight-up slightly undersized rip-off race robo with the original guy's in-joke Easter egg tampos replaced with some nonsense. Wind floor high speed, is that a thing? So like, I don't know, he's too small, slightly inadequately detailed, plus it looks like the head's been coloured in with a biro, which I can say with some confidence because the ink's just come off on my fingers. Off with his everything! Lately it's been a smidge silent on the old Fantastic front. It used to be such a rich seam of easy lols, but lately it looks like they've slacked off a bit on their old shenanigans of just stealing Hasbro's shit. The only identifiable trans fraudster I've found in there in the last actual couple of years is this robot truck. There's a respectably inflated Classics Minicon Grindor, let's call him Tindor, with his blast chargy legs and bulkheady head. I don't know what to tell you, man, this is decent. Paint's a bit negligent on the old robot mode, but otherwise construction's solid, plastic's good. He's even got some quality gibberish on his tyres. Powerful firster, that's what they call me. Aside from him though, Poundland's been a bit dry on the old knockoffometer. The best they've done recently is this wee selection called Super HS3 Plus Robot New Series Invincible Fast Action, which consists of a failsome foursome of formulaic beast formers. Beast formulaic? Say hi to Sun Pigeon, Night Weasel, Magma Swine, and Custard Gannet. These are some fairly chucklesome colour swap creature cretins, all of them transform identically into lovable but mundane quadrupedal beastie guys. It's hard to say I favour any particular one, but they're all packing sweet enough animal flavoured chest noodles atop identical base parts, with like goofy shoulder paws, one handheld and two leg mounted weapons, and smushy little heads that just manage to stay on the cute side of featureless. Now this rabble aren't Transformer knockoffs, but they've got to be nicked from somewhere. Most likely some henshin thing or other. Do you recognise them? Why not leave a comment? Drive audience engagement. Like, share and subscribe. What's weird though is that the boxes are actually kind of nice. They really remind me of like a third party dealie, like one of those Warbot guys with a thick black card and vague action figure-y language. Don't know what these robots are trying to say either, with like your busted ass razor claw mate, low rent Megazord insinuating some kind of non-existent combination gimmick, and Dreamwave Megatron in his house clothes. Anyway, these things are kind of inoffensively flimsy really, and they might have even been fun once upon a time. But like, is this a beatdown or what? Besides, it looks like there's a new contender to the throne of the kingdom of cut-price crap, and its name is the 99p Store. Yes, indeed, these impudent penny pinchers last year made the admirable dick move of releasing the same exact guise as Poundland that we were just talking about at the same time. Their versions came under the super creative moniker of Roboformers, but not before they bashed out some large lad legends back in 13 under the name Trans Robots. So yes, weighing in at 49.5p is Lil's shark scream here, and it was worth every penny. I can't imagine a universe where anyone liked movie legend Starscream, so it just flabbergasts me that anyone would think it'd be a good idea to make it again, but worse. I suppose the colours are fun, but anything would have been an improvement on nothing. It's all horrible and bendy and uncomfortably soft, and I want it out of the house. Oh, how it pains me to do this. And then Hound was a zombie. Yes, indeed, Sharkscreen's Pac-Mate was an enlarged and needlessly simplified Universe Legends Hound figure. Funny how that same bad plastic can seem so much more offensive on a figure I actually liked. Look at that mess. The size increase is given the detail a sort of soft-focused bad dream quality. The legs come off with like no resistance, and he's just coated in these grimy skin tags. I was half tempted to keep this thing because, you know, drop shot, zombie hound, but look at his poor old face. That is the exact expression of the agony of longing for a death that never comes. Destroy the brain! But that's not all. This was just one of a fistful of 2-packs blurted out by the 99p store to their unwilling public. Other hits included this movie Ratchet, packaged with another Ratchet. And was trans robots and robo-formers really the best you could do? Maybe give me a call when you drop robo-robos. But the 99p's aren't the only surprise new entrant in the garbage gangland warfare. Recent fan favourite B&M home stores also threw their illegally imported hat into the ring with this inappropriately oversized versus pack of morph bots. What, like a Mutateor? These 2-in-1 transforming battle figures are Megabolt and Hellcat from Machine Boy. So clearly Megabolt's a basically unaltered 07 movie swindle who was never the coolest toy but was a long way from Sucksville. And Megabolt honestly is easily as good as the real guy. The only noticeable differences are the replaced minuscule con badge and the slightly cloudy belly boner. This feels weird, man. I sold my movie swindle a while ago, so this is like bumping into an old acquaintance you don't really know anymore. Hellcat, on the other hand, is way more worthwhile. She's a similarly strong take on the first movie RC figure, but in prime RC colours. Somebody's got to be into that, right? Again, she's a pretty safe quality product with a cheeky RC tampo and like a Meng baddie license plate. The plot thickens. I had a quick Google of that word and it brought up all kinds of fakey fun, like this alteration man. So I guess that must be the real name behind the Machine Boy facade. Creepily, she's also got this little tag hanging off her like branded cattle. Make your own if you're so bloody proud. Now, if you'll allow me a moment. Light by me. But the real fun of this little package comes from the ridiculously oversized carry case. Check it out, spacey backdrops and explosions, names and stats and that, glittery holographic window dressing, Nemesis Prime, the works. Not to mention it's got a friggin' handle so you can carting around like a man about town, and considering it's only got 2 deluxes to deal with, it's a little on the roomy side. Open it up too and there's collector's cards and this sweet spacey diorama, and oh my god, they've actually knocked off the instructions. These are like the exact graphics. Guys, you can't actually use the word Transformers. That's part of the fun. You gotta call it like Changertron or, you know, Morphbots. And wait, Flame Feather? Carol? Now then, around the same time, and the same aisle as that pair, I ran into a new face from a familiar place. From the makers of Roadbot with lights, and Roadbot with lights and sound, comes Roadbot Warriors! So this... Christ. Oh my god, look at this thing. Oh, Jesus. Can't believe how that looks. So this is the 1/18th scale Lamborghini Murcielago fully transforming combat vehicle fighter, or Shite Swipe, and it's not convincing me that happy well I've managed to scrape together a clue. Just everything's wrong. Like the legs are flabby side forward, the doors look like the world's most half-assed power suit pads, and the giant flabby gun just looks like... It's dumb, right? And this body-width laser shower's only making things worse. I suppose the Megatron Shredder half-breed helmet's kinda cool, but it's too little. Too little. The Road Bros can deliver on, it's a quality car mode. And I'd say this lush Lambo was reliably spectacular. Check it out with like the vertical doors, cushy little interior, inexplicable sirens, and an acceptable level of Okay, this is going to sound really stupid, but this is the kind of thing I initially expected from Masterpiece Sideswipe. Like, right when it was announced, before we knew they were going to be small from now on, I was fully expecting a friggin' 13-inch diecast Diablo. So I guess score 1 for my unfulfilled imagination. But it's not fair to lump old shite in with all that actual shite. If he's a knockoff, then are third-party toys knockoffs? Are GoBots? Where does it stop? It's just a non-transformer transforming thing that I don't really have any business calling a knockoff. I'm just going with it anyway, because that's kind of the theme. Which leads me to my next section.
No transformer, transformer,
Come with me now on a franchise-hopping adventure-a-thon through unrelated off-brand robos of non-stolen origins from any danged where. Here's a couple you may recognise. It's the Mechan Bots. Now this pair and their indistinguishable ilk have been keeping the pegs warm at the Entertainer for a very long time indeed. These two are officially known as 3, 2, 5, Super, Force Tiger, and Robot Triceratops. 3, 3, 3. But I prefer to call them Napoleon Dino Shite. They're sort of interesting but somewhat wide of the mark beast formers that work in exactly the same way. Identical guns, repainted anti-aircraft backpacks to give the illusion of play value, and tediously similar transformations. I kinda like the Force Tiger. His colours give him a sort of mid to late G1 vibe, like Monstructor or Gnaw. And as for this guy, I guess he's not the worst dino robot I've ever seen, but he's pretty close. But hey, at least they're a steal at half the price. They used to be £13. Really though? When? When was they? Also on the shelves was this Digimon Shoutmon X3 Digifusion Loader. It's an affably boxy sort of Sentai Chimera with like a skull face, a unicorn doge, and some kind of coat hanger. And that's kind of fun, but the toy doesn't really feel like a treat. It's all hollow and awkwardly shaped, and you can just kind of impatiently bounce his arms around. And the alt mode only raises more questions. I'm guessing this is a kind of Real Gear Robots roleplay thing, like they'd use it in the show to talk to each other. And it does say you can call for a Digifusion. Yeah, I'd like to inquire about Digifusion, please. Yeah, I'll hold. Put the kettle on. Even that's pretty weak, though. I mean, look at it from the back. Why am I talking into a folded-up robot? I don't know, man. I feel like trying to comprehend it any further would require actually understanding how Digimon works. And, like, no thank you. It just seems to me like every kiddie anime thing has every other kiddie anime thing in it. Digimon's got Transformers, Yu-Gi-Oh's got Gundams, Power Rangers have just got everything. But surely we can do better for 15 quid. I mean, far be it from me to expect quality from a company called Bandai. Wow, suddenly those Combiner Wars guys look like a good deal. Onto some slightly more reputable folks now in the form of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Programming Mutations. Yeah, it looks like the TMNT toy line got a bit stale at some point, so they decided to try their hand at roboforming for some reason. Now these things maybe didn't have the slickest designs. Like, right when you look at them you can tell something's up. They're super awkwardly proportioned and the articulation's a joke. But there's definitely a charm to them, like, hey, we're trying. So this is Leonardo DiCaprio looking an absolute mug in his fireman's hat and bathrobe combo. He definitely looks like he's been on the carbs with his chunky frame and weird angles. But I kinda like how he's just wearing his vehicle mode like a coat. Maybe he would have benefited from turtle face instead of that dopey smirk. You ever try and do turtle face? It's hard. Is that it? Do I look radical? Splinter's not so much fun, sadly. He's very much your standard Ratman, but covered in tons of obvious hinges and a bit of a hunchback. I love how his feet are just on a platform there, but like, why doesn't he get a costume? That's so ageist. Transformation on both these is a bit slapdash, but they're interesting and unique enough. Splinter in particular basically turns himself inside out to reveal this freaky little turtle box. I suppose it could be the party wagon as designed by Lada. I love the nice try engine label, but like, why Splinter for the van? Does Splinter even drive? Kind of the same with the other one. I mean, I guess it makes sense that Leo would be a fire engine, seeing as he's the guy who's always like, we gotta save him! Anyway, this is a moderately mediocre fire truck mode. Bit overload on the old stickers, but it checks out. I also really love that they've got their big dumb faces in there, and Splinter even gets a little steering wheel. Seriously though, I feel like these would be a hard thing for the makers to justify. I'm vaguely aware of another range of mutators with like Splinter who turns from the guy into the rat, which makes more sense, but now they can turn into cars and that? How are you going to make that canon? I suppose 3 years into the toy line they were just like, look, it's a turtle that's a transformer. Cool. So these are one of those things you just gotta go with. Turtle power. How obvious is it that it's the next day now? Now then, let's get our lowest common denominator on and laugh at some Happy Meal toys. So aside from the slew of super simplified primes and bees over the decades, McDonald's have also cooked up a few fast food formers of their own. Take Slim Shaky here. This was part of the set that came out in '88 and it turns into the daftest little Adorabot in the world. Look at this little dope with his giant face and spaced out grin like a Mighty Boosh character. You wanna taste my insides? A couple of years later they blurted out another set, but by then it was the 90s, so of course it had to be garish and unbearable. I mean, ew. I guess good on you for taking the same thing and doing something else with it, but no. No! Stop doing big pink dinosaurs. What was wrong with the other guy? Just do more like that. Oh my god, I'm a Happy Meal G1er. Next up then is a peek at a delightful set of bargain bros that occasionally crop up in the supermarket aisles next to the Beano, presenting the Mars Converters. Yes indeed, these leader class losers are an offshoot of the blazingly traditional Mars robot toy line, and it's £6 a piece. I just couldn't pass them up. So this Grey Goon is Accelerator, and to be fair to him, his old school movie robot look is on point. For the most part, he's a bit Dullsville, like with his most obvious car former scheme ever, but he does pull it off with a bit of class. I love his dapper droidy head and baggy pants. He looks alright, Jen. Transformation's a bit balls to the wall, he's not above popping a joint, but the sci-fi sports car mode's fittingly furious. Sure, it's a little clumsy and the wheels don't really work, and the plastic's got all these weird turbulent swooshes in it as a hallmark of its cheapitude, but he wears it well. Now then, this lemony loon is Earth Mover, the obligatory Constructicant of the team. Are they a team? I feel like they'd at least hang out. Oh, I love this thing, it's so bad. He's just the weirdest guy. Look at him with his mighty bucket forearms and feeble hand flaps. Oh, perfect. Legs are fairly monstrous, but the hips are so naff. They just make the transformation a right rigmarole. Dozer mode's lovably lame, just so awkward and strange. But it's got this sort of cosmic space station play school vibe. And check this out, you know how a lot of toys with treads will have like little wheels so they can still roll without the treads having to actually do anything? Well, Earth Mover's got them, but they're fake too! Oh no! So yeah, there's 4 more of these freaks and they all seem similarly madcap. I'm gonna say they're a fair shout for 6 smackers. Their cheapo robo game is strong. Mind you, if you're still too cheap to stretch to the full 6, you can always nip up Pound Stretcher and grab a knockoff one. Yes indeed, these offensive arseholes are the Super Robot Squad! And they can be yours for a modest $4.99. So these space overlords all came in the same box with the same sort of OKTF animated style box art and the same instructions for the only one I didn't buy, and like, what? So I guess this is Accelerator, and he's not much worse than the real guy. I mean, his arms are a bit floppier, but otherwise he's not terrible. And I kind of like how they look as the pair, like your classic henchman duo. So I guess 83% of the price for 90% of the quality can't be too bad. But the undeniable star of the show is this Pound Stretcher powerhouse of a KO valve charger. Look at this muscle mother. While it's totally unfair to give this thing any credit for the original's awesome design, there's something to be said for what is essentially a leader class downshift in smokescreen colours. Quality for a KO's outstanding, and he's even rocking some pump-up tampos to drive home the awesome. So I guess the take-home message is that for what they are, Mars Converters are actually pretty killer, but they're so infrequently available and unreliably distributed that in a pinch I'll take a knockoff. I'll take him, and I'll love him, and I'll cherish him, and I'll name him Terry Crews. Super Speed Power! So not long ago I found myself on a little toy hole named Nuxley's, filled with all manner of cheap and cheerful nonsense like water pistols and footballs and off-brand Lego sets and this alien Terminator robot car changer. Say hi to Ian Bumblebee. Wait, do you prefer Ian Bumblebee or Bumblebee and Beale? But he's not actually a Bumblebee, he's clearly either a cheap imitation or some older toy that's been dredged out of retirement and repurposed as a cash grab. And credit where it's due, it might have been good once. I mean, the detail on the underbelly's pretty admirable, I suppose, and it looks like the car mode's a tolerable standard sedan. Sedandered? And honestly, I'm feeling the Space Marine bolter and the palm tree. But apart from that, it's a classic cut price letdown. Thin-ass plastic, creepy old man face on a worthless hollow noggin, repeated tampos, unusable non-feet, and it won't even transform. I'm also getting a real creepy vibe from this box. I mean, look at this thing. It's got a strapline with a brazen yet deeply personal threat. An absent green-skinned doppelganger, symbols at once familiar and unknowable, and a dark planet of awesome size eclipsing the light of a dying sun. Or maybe it's because Nuxley's is in Graves End. And you.
Masterpiece of crap.
Alright, time to deal with some rip-offs so shameless I'm gonna have to restate the rules. These are fakes, and no matter how spangly they may seem, they do not deserve a legit review. Our mission statement for today is to laugh at crappy toys, crack some puns, maybe break something. This is a fun time show. I don't want to appear to be endorsing this kind of dodgy activity. You ever noticed that masterpiece knockoffs have kind of become acknowledged as a thing? Like you'll see somebody showing off the collection online and they'll be like, and these are my masterpieces. Sideswipes are KO, but one F's lol. And you're like, when did this become okay? Well, it turns out it's an easy trap to fall into because the internet is just lousy with knockoff masterpieces, and they're so temptingly affordable that folks do end up settling for them. I know this because it happened to me! Saw them on eBay having a scout about for a masterpiece sideswipe at a reasonable price.
On the Bayview, browsing through my favorite category.
I stumbled across a thing called Takara Masterpiece Tiger Track Lambo Tokyo Show, or something.
Ooh, that looks prestige. Must be a display model. Or like an overstock. Opening bid for £15? Click.
But then you start to think, is that right? Does that look legit? Am I content with stock photos? Why does it say not KO? Might this wording be intended to mislead? What does Google say about it?
Oh, it's fake.
Oh, I've been outbid. Sod it then. 25. So this, as it turns out, is your KO Masterpiece Tiger Track, or Spiger Track if you insist. And it's a tiny bit spectacular. It's a gorgeously faithful and disarmingly believable little fake babe, with nice tight joints, delicious chunky plastic, basically everything in order. In fact, while I was doing my homework for this video, I was looking for a list of the differences between the real and fake ones. All I could find was a lot of forum posts and videos with the word identical plastered all over them. And I pretty much almost talked myself around to believing it's the real one. But no, it's a fakeroo, alright, and the only way you can really tell is that its headlights haven't got guy liner on. Apart from that though, this is one immaculate little scoundrel that makes me feel very dirty indeed. Shame I can't quite say the same for Fred Alert here, or Red Albert then. While he can just about hold his own visually, as in he does look dead sexy. Sadly, once you get under the hood, you start to find all kinds of badness. Like he's got one regular knee and one floopy one. He can't quite keep a grip on the gun. This shoulder just straight up doesn't work. And the head flap doesn't quite close, so he's always rocking this wicked skull fracture. But at least he transforms into a sweet Lamborg Thrall-Cantouch, which I suppose isn't the worst way you could get that word wrong. Add to that the pitiful wrong striped attempt at a logo, and he does just enough to disqualify himself from being a guilty pleasure and just ends up an unsatisfying suckfest. It's Red Alert for you, sucker! Old Albert in the crapster-piece pile are these tiny 2-packs of cast-off Cassetticons. I suppose these might be tempted to the folks who bought the Takara Soundwave that just came with Laserbeat, seeing as the Hasbro sets become unspeakably scarce and these routinely sell for under a tenner. Right away though, I knew there was something up because they've put the wrong names on the boxes. While we're under my roof, we will not call the blue one Frenzy. Hashtag fandom banter. To be fair to these pint-sized pretenders, most of them are actually pretty sound. Brumblefly's nicely fierce and feisty. Scrappage looks about ready to bounce out the undergrowth. Buzzsaw's gleamingly glorange and he's basically got you covered. But Frenchie here's massively showing the team up. Look at this scry little bleeder with his chipped-ass chrome, smudged up outfit and an imprint of a badge, but no badge? How is that acceptable? And that, I suppose, is a fair account from both ends of the nasty piece scale. What it comes down to is that these things aren't always that easy to spot. And at this point, they're so ubiquitous, I probably couldn't find a proper NP sideswipe if I wanted to. And there is the heart of the problem. I don't even want a real one now. I mean, I've already had it twice. I'm kind of over it. And I am spent. Thanks so much if you stuck around to the end. Mega thanks to my robo contributors: Will Webster, Scotty Barker, Kai Grufford, Pete from Threshold, Adam Raven, good old Brentasaur, Blast from the Past Derby, and Bolt Matrix. Big cheers also to Ryan and Mike for the photos, and to Stu from the Old Oil House. Laters, haters!
Be sure to subscribe for more Thew's awesome Transformers reviews. Robocentric Vocabugasm.